Symbols and language have always been an enigma within World of Warcraft. With no lexicon to guide us, we have often overlooked the runes and symbols permeating every part of our world. From the language of madness seen etched in the sky as Ny'alotha breached our realm, to the symbols of the Titans etched into their massive constructions. The Titans in particular have two distinct language patterns so far. Let's look at what information we can learn from this, and stay to the end to hear how this very language could inform us on what's to come. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and come, take a seat by the fire. The first series of patterns that we see are etched into the very machinery and framework of the Titan constructions themselves. This leads us to Northrend, in particular to the Storm Peaks. While the constructions of Ulduar and beyond lead all over the icy continent, it is in small vents peeking from the ice that we get some perfect examples of the language of order. These long strings of glyph-like patterns are not only found on the machinery itself, but in many other areas, either exactly as shown, or with some minor variation on it. Let's look at some examples of this. The first, and the easiest, is actually on the creation of golems. Many of the arcane golems we find are laced with the same bands of patterns as we see on the machinery. The next notable area we see them, albeit often briefly, is actually in the casting of arcane spells by mages, even making it onto some of their armour, as we see from the mage gloves that drop from Antorus the Burning Throne, the rune-bound gloves. We also see this making an appearance in Dragonflight. This is, of course, across many of the structures that the dragon aspects and their flights built within the Dragon Isles. Now there is some deviation from the original, but it is clear it is connected. We here at the campfire propose that this is the language of the arcane itself. These symbols and runes are a way to call upon and channel the arcane magic. The use of such magic to bind golems, even ones of the more elemental variety, is the most obvious evidence for this. Look back at the boss fight, the Omnitron defense system. Golems laced with bands of these self-same runes, they bind the elemental power within. While this is the language of the arcane, and you would assume the Titans being the pantheon of order with dominion over the arcane, this would be their language. But it seems they use a more celestial form of linguistics. They appear to use constellations at the very least as a form of language, or perhaps as a marker for areas of importance. The most notable area that we see this is in the new dungeon of Uldaman, the Legacy of Tyr. Within here, the fresco carvings of the wall are very deliberate. Each one is a unique constellation. And then, upon further exploration, we get to an even more notable part. Central to many of these designs, we find a blue marble-like orb. Upon these orbs we see the constellation-like patterns drawn upon them. Often these are a mixture of the singular patterns we found earlier, carved into the stone. However, these repeat at very specific areas. The best example of this is the one found in Tyr's Seat of Uldurus, or better known as Tyrhold. The same symbol is repeated in the central chamber of Tyr's vault. These patterns of constellations can be found in even the smallest of places, like upon the hilt of the sword used by the maidens, or even in places of grand importance. Even Aeonar herself, when we encounter her in Elunaria, appears to emanate these constellations in her soul form. It is our current theory that these constellations are not a formal language as we would know it, but actually more that what would become observable manifestations of the Titans when they are not in their physical forms. Each singular constellation likely refers to a different member of the pantheon. From this, the more complex patterns, such as those that appear to be the amalgamations of other constellations, would denote notable constructs, such as the Keepers of Azeroth. Just like the pattern seen on Tyr's throne, this is likely his sigil, or a sort of Titan-forged coat of arms. When it comes to the lesser Titan-forged creations, it appears these constellations once again revert to the more singular type. This would usually go against our current working theory that they represent the absolute power of a Titan themselves, unless it was to also denote purpose. Using Aenar's constellation would denote its intended use, likely for the effect of caring for or seeding of life. Or perhaps you would use the sigil of Sargeras, perhaps now more Agrimar, upon weaponry to denote the purpose as soldiers or protectors. This would explain why the weaponry on many of the maidens around Tyrhold all bear the same constellation. Of course, this is conjecture, but it does seem to follow a strict pattern, which would make sense given this is the cosmic domain of order we are talking about. The one part that it is still unclear is how this relates to the constellar race. We have had slim to no real interaction with them, but I would imagine this constellation-like language would also be used by them. This theory will either be proven very right or very wrong over the next couple of years. Even this expansion, with the Titans and Titan Forge featuring so prominently, we could get further hints, especially in the major patches. It is small details like these, often overlooked, that provide us with the biggest clues. There has been a lot of theories surrounding the Titan constructions on Azeroth lately. Were they really there to nurture the world soul? Or were they there to keep it asleep? Perhaps until it can be swayed to the way of order? It's not like we haven't been told this. We explore the deep places of Azeroth. It is up to us to keep our eyes peeled for signs of this kind of activity. Could this need for designations be the biggest giveaway? We see this in effect around the entrance to the vaults of the Incarnates. It's here Tyr has lined the entrance with his own sigil. Even in the final chamber, his sigil can be seen marking the prison of each of the Incarnates. We here at the campfire will be looking to see if any of the other Titans have similar constellation-like sigils. Areas that were of great importance to them and clearly marked. This way we could differentiate between each of the Keeper's involvement, and likely its level of threat. What does everyone else think? Has anyone else found messages written in this language of the stars? We love hearing your theories, so don't hesitate to tell us, either in the comments or join us on the Discord. Oh, and don't forget to come back anytime.